Hey, Jim here. There's been some requests, people asking how to change a flat tire on the front of the 08. River Rides did a video showing it and they did a nice job, but I figured I'd just show it as well and hopefully help you out a little bit. It's really not that bad, you just have to have the tools. So this is a nice multi-tool that you get with the Zeros, and it only goes up to a... Sorry, I didn't think about getting into it one-handed. It goes up to a 15 millimeter. So what you actually need for this front to release the bolts in this front tire, you need a 17 millimeter. So the tools you need for this particular flat repair are a 17 millimeter wrench and a 5 millimeter Allen wrench. So I'm going to take this off and show you real quick how to do it. Alright, like I said, you need a 17 millimeter wrench. But you also need to have something else to hold the opposite side. I grabbed another 17 millimeter just so I can kind of turn them opposite, because it's a through axle, so it's kind of connected. What I tend to do is I tend to just spin off one side, and it looks like it happened to spin off the opposite side of the camera. So there's a couple of spacers in here. Make sure and pull those out, and you kind of have to wiggle the wheel to the side a little bit, and you got a little, like I say, and it's just a simple bolt. But so I'm going to show what you would typically do if you were doing, if this particular wheel rim it's a two-piece, so you can separate the bolts. That makes it very easy to change a flat. If it wasn't that style, you'd probably all be deflated, and you'd have to get your tire levers in here. Small diameter wheels are notoriously difficult to get off because you're working against such a tight radius. It takes a lot of force to get the bead off. So that's never a lot of fun on these. But I'm going to take off split the rim apart here, let some air out of it. And it's just 3 5 millimeter bolts. And I have this kind of handy Allen ratchety thing, which I like. So I recommend having a little surface to work on. This works pretty well for me, having the combination of the bike stand and a little table. I know it's not like super high tech, but it's all right by me. So now that's as simple as that. You can see how it's just two-piece rim. So now to change the tube, it's really very simple. All you got to do is maybe if you're patching it, all you have to do is you have to get the tube out, put the new tube in. I recommend, and I got a tube here, and the one I got this time doesn't have the angled stem. I think that's going to work fine. It just might be a little difficult to get to, but you just want to partially inflate these so they're easy to work with. That's even a little too much for me. And I'm actually going to put this tube in here, so I'm curious how well it works. And I'll put, it's kind of it feels thicker than the stock tube. And I'll put a link to this tube on the video. I bought it on Amazon. Alright, so it goes in there just fine. On this rim, you have two things you have to consider. You have a little spacer that goes in between. Then you have where the stem comes up. So you got to make sure you get that lined up on the valve stem. That's kind of why I like to have a flat surface here. And then put your spacer in there. And make sure you grab it again on this side. I'm looking at this now, and I think it's possible that these these could be a little short, the valve stem on these. You'll know pretty quickly if your center, if you don't have the center little shim in the right spot, the rim won't sit together flush. So you'll know that pretty quickly if you're having some issues getting this seam down nice and flat. So that's together there. Now I just gotta see if I can get this thing inflated. So I just pushed up on it to do this. Now that's gonna be tricky. To note, you really need to find a stem with this angled and longer valve stem than these ones I got. So maybe I won't put the link to those on the video. Okay, well, just figured that out. The this tube does not work, but it still gives you the idea of on how to change it. Hopefully the video on changing the tire helps. It's really not too hard with this split rim. It's just making sure I have the right tube, as I just found out, which I did not. So I'll try to find a link of the longer tube with the angle on it, and I'll put that link in the description. Thanks.
Catch the wave.